Thank you for joining me. And I've been looking at a passage which I find really difficult to read. I think it's one of the most intense passages of writing I've ever come across. It always affects me, always upsets me, and it concerns the crucifixion of Christ. Matthew chapter 27, verses 27 to 44. And it's the cruelty and just the sheer horror of this. Then Pilate's soldiers took Jesus into the governor's palace, and the whole company gathered round him. They stripped off his clothes and put a scarlet robe on him. Then they made a crown out of thorny branches and placed it on his head, and put a stick in his right hand. Then they knelt before him and mocked him. "Long live the King of the Jews," they said. They spat on him and took the stick and hit him over the head. When they had finished mocking him, they took the robe off and put his own clothes back on him. Then they led him out to crucify him. As they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and the soldiers forced him to carry Jesus' cross. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered Jesus wine mixed with a bitter substance, but after tasting it, he would not drink it. They crucified him and then divided his clothes among them by throwing dice. After that, they sat there and watched him. Above his head, they put the written notice of the accusation against him. "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then they crucified two bandits with Jesus, one on his right and the other on his left. People passing by shook their heads and hurled insults at Jesus. "You are going to tear down the temple and build it up again in 3 days. Save yourself if you are God's son. Come on down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests and the teachers of the law and the elders jeered at him. "He saved others, but he cannot save himself. Isn't he the King of Israel? If he comes down off the cross now, we will believe in him. He trusts in God and claims to be God's son. Well then, let us see if God wants to save him now." Even the bandits who had been crucified with him insulted him in the same way. It brings it home to us, doesn't it, just how low it can get. Here we are, God's attempt to reconcile us with him after all the tortuous journey and twists and turns of the journey through with Israel, the chosen land, the multiple serial disappointments, if you like, that were served up in terms of people's conduct and people's behaviour. So God comes to earth in the form of his own son in order to seek to reconcile us to him. We were separated from him originally, of course, by sin. And here we are, Jesus amongst us. He taught us everything we needed to know in that relatively short lifespan. Why look anywhere else if we want to find peace, if we want to be reconciled with God, if we want to find equilibrium? It's all there. Jesus taught us all that we need to know through his words and his deeds. And this is what happens to him. This is how the world responds. And of course, the thing is about this passage, it's too easy, knowing as we do that the lights are switched on again, if you like, so to speak. I always try to take this passage as though I don't know that, and it's so desperate, isn't it, without that. So, what do we learn? What do we see in the world around us that reminds us of this behaviour that we can see? The worst of what people are capable of. I pray that we do learn from that time that Jesus gave everything that he taught us, which is as important now as ever it was, if not more. So it is very affecting that this level of cruelty and spite was delivered upon him. And this is the crux of our faith, isn't it? Really. That Jesus came, was treated in this way, was crucified. We know, of course, that hope didn't die. We know that. But this passage here should serve as a stark reminder of what would happen if the lights didn't come back on. God bless.